Disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. Food Inc. is a Magnolia Pictures film and belongs to River Road Entertainment, Magnolia Pictures, and their respected owners. This video is in accordance to the copyright law and follows the 5 points of the fair use clause in the copyright law.
They've sent us a message that they can take whatever they want, but we will send them a message.
Are you a giant?
You gotta be out of your mind.
What type build is that, candidate?
TNT.
What is DNG?
Torche and Cabana, hello?
Hello?
Who has given the most flesh will release their bindings, while the gears on your opponent's head will engage, piercing their skull. Who will offer the most flesh in order to save their life? The choice is yours.
Changed more in the last 50 years than in the previous 10,000. The modern supermarket has on average 47,000 products.
The industry doesn't want you to know the truth about what you're eating, because if you knew, you might not want to eat it. We've never had food companies this powerful in our history.
Everything we've done in modern agriculture is to grow it faster, fatter, bigger, cheaper.
If you could grow a chicken in 49 days, why would you want one you got to grow in 3 months?
When you go through the supermarket, there is an illusion of diversity. So much of our industrial food turns out to be rearrangements of corn.
Sometimes you look at a vegetable and say, okay, well, we can get 2 hamburgers for the same price.
They have managed to make it against the law to criticize their products.
There is an effort to make it illegal to publish a photo of any industrial food operation.
I find it incredible that the FDA wants to allow the sale of meat from cloned animals without any labeling.
Peanut butter contaminated with salmonella.
E. coli has been found in spinach, apple juice.
Smells like money to me.
The average consumer does not feel very powerful. It's the exact opposite. When we run an item past the supermarket scanner, we're voting for local or not, organic or not.
Look at the tobacco industry. The battle against tobacco is a perfect model of how an industry's irresponsible behavior can be changed.
Imagine what it would be if, as a national policy, the idea would be to have such nutritionally dense food that people actually felt better, had more energy, and weren't sick as much. You know, now see, that's a noble goal.
People have got to start them.
Welcome back to Spidey's Movie Madness, the week-long event of movie reviews leading up to the review of Avatar. So let's keep things moving with the next movie in line, Food Inc. I used to believe that I knew a great deal about the food industry until I saw this film. During my teenage years, I worked at a Burger King, which gave me a lot of insight into fast food, and a lot of it was insight that I didn't want to know about. But even that couldn't prepare me for what I was about to learn and see in this film. My time working in fast food showed me how disgusting the back of a kitchen can really be. To the company, all that mattered was the increase of their profits, so if something didn't need to be done, then it wouldn't be done until there was no choice. All the employees naturally were paid horrible wages, which resulted in a product with lower quality. At the time, minimum wage was $5.25, and with such a wage, it's hard to be inspired to do extremely well. With such a wage, the employees basically had a who gives a shit attitude. Our wages were pathetic, our jobs were that of a drone, and we were no different than a basic part of a machine that could be easily replaced. I'm going into some detail about this because it led to unhealthy habits in the kitchen and made the product worse than it already was. To make things even worse, management generally knew about what would go on in the back and would rarely do anything about it if it didn't cause any trouble and made a profit. Since the job was so soul-crushing, no one cared what they did. Meat would fall on the floor and still be put in the broiler to cook. Expired food would sometimes never be removed because throwing them out would be like losing money as opposed to selling them to a customer. Some meat, which isn't the best grade meat to begin with, would come damaged and still be put in to cook and be sold. The thought of such a thing is disgusting since fast food chains like Taco Bell have been known to use grade F meat, which is basically one step above actual dog food. Such damages to the meat range from freezer burn-like conditions to coming in broken in half. Also, any customer that made a job worse or attempted to be a pain in the ass would have their food tampered with. I can honestly say that at the time, the thought did often come across my mind to tamper with the food to someone who deserved it, but further thought stopped me from ever doing so because I wouldn't want such a thing to happen to me or anyone I knew, but that didn't stop others from doing disgusting things to the food. This all ties into the fact that the food industry, fast food chains, and others are willing to do anything no matter how wrong it is in order to increase their profits. In Food Inc., we are all shown how McDonald's took over the food industry as a big player, replaced people with automated machines, used cheap and potentially dangerous ingredients, and turned their staff working jobs into a drone-like experience that forever repeats itself. Today, such conditions depicted in the film have been improved, but they are still pretty bad, and it was almost as painful to watch for me as it was when I was sitting watching the animals being killed in the most inhumane of manners. It's also disgusting and highly disturbing knowing that the food industry is willing to stop at nothing to increase their profits. Monsanto created milk that contained pus, and that was basically soiled milk. That is beyond disgusting and something that just makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It sounds even worse when you think about the gravity of the situation. I could have, and most likely did, drink that disgusting excuse for milk when I was a child or younger. That's basically saying that I, and many people, drank the pus of cows when we were younger. Such a thing is mortifying, but the truly horrific thing about all this is that the pus in the milk ordeal is only the start of the lesser of two evils, which is saying a lot considering that everything thus far is just plain evil. Recalled meat for salmonella contaminations killed a healthy child and no justice was brought to the mother. The food industry basically killed someone and nothing was done about it. The contaminated meat was recalled and there was some minor trouble in the news, but at the end of the day, no one was punished but the innocent victims. Not even an apology or an effort to improve the products was made. To me, that's no different than going out in broad daylight, killing someone, and walking away with no remorse. It may seem like an extreme example, but the food industry killed this child, did nothing positive about the situation, and got away with it scotch-free. Despite the stuff mentioned, Food Inc. continues to inform and frighten its audience by further investigation of food companies such as Monsanto. After seeing such disturbing things and being informed, those who have a choice in the situation of their diets and eating habits may make the choice to buy from one store, brand, or avoid a certain provider altogether, but Monsanto and other companies like it are basically removing one's freedom to eat what they want from who they want. It sounds a bit extreme to think that a company would go so far out of its way to control what you eat and who you get your food from, but the film proved this to be a fact. Food Inc.'s example is that of bean farmers serves as a perfect argument for stating that the food industry basically wants to control your eating habits. They put a patent on a genetic string which not only basically gave them the right to a certain bean, but almost life itself. It isn't right to place ownership on genetics. Life evolves and changes on its own, and Monsanto can't just have the rights to something that is natural. What if another life form develops the same genetic code? Does Monsanto automatically have ownership of something they didn't create just because it shares a genetic code they put a patent on? What's scary about this is that if a human were to ever develop such genes, then would they be owned? This whole situation is basically turning biology and life into mere objects of no value that can be owned with little and corrupt effort, but that's just the start of this. Monsanto spreads their chemically made seeds, which travel in the air and could then end up in the products of farmers who don't use Monsanto's beans, or anything having to do with them. What's worse is that if investigation shows traces of Monsanto's bean patent in any farmer's products, then they are in breach of copyright and can lose everything. Naturally, the solution to this would be not to use anything having to do with Monsanto's products, but it's hard to achieve such a thing when Monsanto's has made their patent product airborne, resulting in farmers having to either work with them or suffer their punishment, and that in turn forces us to use their products. This action also shuts down independent farmers and food providers, resulting in less choices for people who want to make a change in their eating habits. When everything is all said and done, we come to the grim result that we are slowly being told what to eat and who to buy it from, which is more frightening than Big Brother simply spying on us. This new reality is like Big Brother telling us what to eat and who to eat it from. Food Inc. serves as an example and device to create a paradigm shift in people, or in its viewers. It presents the truth in a brutal and overbearing way that makes for a great slap of reality, even if it's a bit abrasive at times. For what I know, two things tend to create a paradigm shift in people, and those things are traumatic experiences and viewing things of an extreme nature. In my case, working in fast food and seeing what goes on behind the scenes caused me to have a paradigm shift in regards to fast food. I now hate them all and no longer go to any of them if I have a choice. I don't put any money towards them, and when I do find myself in one, I try making my interactions with employees as quick and as pleasant as possible. My working experience in fast food caused a change in me, and viewing Food Inc. only reinforces it. I also must note that for a documentary, Food Inc.'s cinematography is stunningly beautiful. The content covered serves as a great method of spreading the disturbing truth about food. The industry is no longer about bringing good food to the consumers, and the whole aspect of farmers doing the same is even less. Today's food industry only works on the notion of following their own philosophy, which is to increase profits no matter what, through means of efficiency, predictability in how many people will a product harm, control, calculation of results, and issues that may prove harmful to profits. Food Inc. is a hard slap of reality regarding the food industry, and is so brutal and frightening in its honesty that it almost produces the chills and fears that horror movies set out to achieve but can't. Food Inc. gets a 9 out of 10.